Just when you thought it was impossible to learn how to live forever because you felt abandoned by the health doctor, the man who knows everything, both PT wise and INT wise, everything you need to know about health, fitness, nutrition, exercise, lifestyle, mindset. Did I miss anything, Ben? He's right. Dr. Ben Quist.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. I appreciate that. You didn't miss anything. You got it all. You got it all. You added a couple extras.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Dr. Ben. Mm-hmm. What have you been up to? Where are we going? What are we talking about today? We're talking about health, of course, but yes. What specifically you want to talk about, Dr. Ben?
So we are kind of, those in your audience who have watch our YouTube videos or get our emails, we're going to be starting those back up again. We recently opened a third location for our fitness companies. That took us out of the loop for a little bit, but we're getting back in action starting next week. And the topic that we're going to cover next week in our YouTube channel is going to be, should adults incorporate jump training or jumping into their exercise routines when they are over the age of 40? So because it's interesting, Jack, because I actually get that question probably once a week from somebody. So I know it's something that people think about.
It is. You see people doing it and you want to do it yourself. Is jumping, is that part of a subset of plyometrics? Is that what that is? Or how does that work? I've heard of both.
Jumping would be considered a plyometric, so it's like stretch training, anything that stretches your muscles then rebounds, like that. The plyometrics are about using the elastic components of your tissue. Mm-hmm. When you're training. Mm-hmm. So jumping is, one of the primary formats that, people do plyometric training. But jumping in the fitness realm could be anything from jump squats to jumping jacks to burpees, sometimes have a jump component, to people do lateral jumps over a box, I've seen all kinds of things, to the more extreme things you see athletes doing where they're jumping off of something, landing, jumping again, all this kind of stuff. And so people always ask that kind of loaded question. And where I get it the most from is typically it's a female client or customer who asks me this question, who's in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and is interested in bone density. So they hear jumping is good for bone density, and then they're like, I should be doing jumping. And it's somewhat of a loaded question because jumping is a huge spectrum of different exercises. So there's different ways to jump, right? So have you, when you're doing your exercise stuff, do you ever have any jumping stuff in your routines?
Definitely. I dread it because it's hard, but even though my knees can be bulky at times, but the things that I find do not affect my knees, I can still jump squat. Those things are just unbelievably, the aerobic workout you get from that. Burpees, which has got to be the most hated exercise in the history of the universe, but yep. I do those are worked out. And also jumping on, you get those soft boxes that you have at the gym, yep. Ben. Yep. Because I can jump up yep. and then step down. You don't have to jump down. So that's kind of where jumping jacks. Yeah, it's a little bit of lateral stuff, But mm-hmm. Sometimes I just do jumping jacks. Well, I'll jump straight up and move my arms like that. So that's kind of what I incorporate.
Yeah, no, and you're right. Jumping, the reason that people program it into things like, athlete training, obviously, but even like what you do a large format kind of team training, boot camp style workouts. Yep. It's incorporated into there because it raises up your heart rate, and it's very, very difficult. So most people hate doing that stuff. The thing when I answer that question for people about jumping, it's a real double-edged sword with jumping, because jumping is extremely hard on the tissue, which can create a strong adaptation, but it is also in what I would put as the less safe exercise category. Whenever we think about like designing exercise programs for people, we think of like a quadrant, so like if we divide the screen up here into, if you had like, picture like 4 boxes, so a top box left, right, and a bottom box left, right.
Yep.
And I always think of it, okay, like, if this box over here on top left is exercises that are highly effective for you, but highly safe, very low chance of injury. And then you have, over here in that top right category, exercises that are very effective, but are a little bit more dangerous. And then in the bottom two quadrants, these are the dumb exercises. So on the far left bottom quadrant, we think of exercises that are not very effective and also, somewhat safe. And then on the far other side, this bottom box, that lower area here is where the exercises are unsafe and they're not effective. So like, so it's like, why would you do that? But, like people do some of these things because they, so jumping really falls into kind of that upper right-hand quadrant where it is very effective, but it is higher risk. So you got to, and the risk gets a lot more intense the older you get. Because as you get older, each decade of life, the tissue changes. The amount of resiliency, your tendons, ligaments, joints, cartilage, all that good stuff, your muscles, it changes over time and it becomes less resilient, especially to extreme forces, meaning like landing, jumping, that kind of thing. And as a physical therapist over time, I have just seen a lot of injuries with jump training. And I'm going to make, because there's a spectrum of jump training. There are different types of jumps that are safer, and there's other types of jumps that are a lot more dangerous. So, I've seen people that have burst their Achilles tendon jumping. Very common. I've seen people injure their knees doing jumping type exercises. So it is one of those ones where it's like, God, is that worth it? And I always, when I design my own stuff that I'm doing, and I don't always follow this, but I try to stay in the highly effective exercises that are very safe. So when someone asks me that question of should I jump, it's like, okay, well, how old are you? If you're over the age of 40, you got to be a lot more careful. If you're over the age of 60, you really need to be careful with your jump training. And then if you don't have much experience in exercise, again, you need to be very careful with jumping. Like if you can't do a body weight squat appropriately, and then you have a trainer or you're in a boot camp and they're having to do pike jumps, or jump squats, and you can't even do a body weight squat appropriately, your chances of injury, even if you're young, go way, way up. And that's where I think jump training sometimes gets problematic, especially in large group settings. Like even at Form and Fitness in our team training, we try to keep our jumps in the safer category, but other places I know they do all kinds of jumping stuff, and there's not really any thought process put into why the people are doing jumping. If you have 50 people jumping at the same time, all different ability levels, it can be kind of bad.
It's asking for trouble. It's chaos.
It's chaos. It's asking for trouble.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at jump training, if your audience wants to incorporate that, because it's great. It's one of the best exercises you could do for anti-osteoporosis or bone density building, because there's that impact of the landing, which really helps the bones. Something like a jump squat where you're not going very high off the ground,
right?
Very symmetrical. Those are the jumps that are typically safer for people, or like what you had said, a box jump, where you're jumping up onto something. It lessens the amount of force going in. So like a height that was very doable for someone in their 40s or 50s. Obviously, you're not doing box jumps where you're trying to do a world record for someone who's like 55 years old who hasn't worked out in 3 years. Like that'd be a really, really big mistake. But very carefully controlled jumps onto a soft box, great. Those two things are things I incorporate even with people in their 70s.
Those soft boxes, you can, with good trainers, and you have good trainers at the gym, they will, like, it's happened to me where I go up, I jump up on a box, and they'll say, you shouldn't be able to hear that. You're not landing right. Even on a soft box, you still can't just go. You've got to, and then you think about, when you're thinking about the landing, it's amazing how much different it can feel when you're thinking about it. And that's really critical too. Instead of, when you're in the 40s plus, like you mentioned, you should definitely consult with somebody instead of just taking something you see online and try and apply it, because like you said, every case is different. And then how you do it is different too. And that's a huge difference how you land. Also,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say on the jump squats, I mean, you could almost not slide a dime under the height I get off on my jump squats, but it doesn't. You still get a little bit. You still get that explosive, and you're still getting that. So it's still helpful. and it still is a
It's
killer.
jump squats is a great exercise, and same thing with the jump squat. If you're landing and it sounds like an elephant coming down to earth, like that's not, you're not doing it right. Jump
Right.
squats should also be, I always tell people, ninja feet. Like you're landing like a ninja. You should not be able to hear anything, because that means you're taking the force and you're putting it into the muscle tissue versus just smacking down into your, your bones and your, like it, so, we've all heard those people either running on the treadmill or doing jump training where it's pretty loud, and smack, 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 or you
Yes.
hear the jump and it's like bang, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, it is typically better if you're controlling that landing to the point where it isn't making a whole lot of noise.
Right. Yes, definitely. Huh.
Because it's also another fascinating one. So running is actually jumping, right? So when you
Yes.
run your 2 feet leave the ground at the same time. So technically is a jump. And I've always been fascinated with, gosh, why are they able to run their entire life and they never get knee arthritis? But then other people run and their knees get all jacked up. And I personally believe some of that is the way they control their landings when they're running. They're running and it is smooth and it's fluid, and when they hit, it doesn't sound like a horse kind of clip clopping down, like big,
Right.
And I guess I'm just very in tune to that because I've had so many experiences where people destroy our treadmills at Form of Fitness, where they run so hard on them, where they are just smashing their feet into the treadmill. It's like, and there's other people running at the exact same speed, exact same weight, and they're not making all that noise. So
Yeah.
oh.
There's one guy in the morning he's a younger guy, and he makes so much noise, and all I think is, you're young, but that's going to catch up. That's going to catch up to you. You just can't. It just sounds. I hear it and I cringe because it hurts my knees when I hear that. Huh.
100%.
Very cool.
We had a trainer, young trainer. Well, him. He was doing lateral jump training, and he's in his probably late 20s, early 30s, and he blew out his gastroc doing that. So he was jumping over something and back and forth. So whenever you add extra degrees of difficulty to the jump, it becomes much more dangerous. And that's where, when I see programming like where they're doing pike jumps, or meaning like flipping your legs forward, jumping down, where that's much more difficult, or lateral jumps or angled jumps, if that person isn't like, an athlete training for something, why are you doing that with that person? Because you've just taken, those are effective, but you're taking it to the far end of the danger zone. And then when you take that and you look at, gosh, you're doing that with that person, and they're 45 years old or they're 60 years old, then it really makes me question the programming when I see that kind of stuff. It makes me cringe.
Yeah, big time. Big time. Cool. All right. Well, I'm surprised. The first thing you said, I was surprised that the jumping is good for bone density. I didn't put that together. I think whenever I think you're leaving your feet, you're coming down, but it's all, like you said, and how you land. That's a huge thing. So
no, bone density, it is about impact a little bit. That's why walking with a weighted vest, is good. And actually, I was just talking to a client at our Whitefish Bay location about this, and she had brought up that she's concerned about osteoporosis, and she's in her 60s. And, it's interesting. The individuals that typically get osteoporosis are individuals that are thin or on the more slighter build. And the reason for that is they're not having a lot of weight impacting when they're walking. When you're, one good thing about being obese or being, like carrying a lot more weight than you should be, is you usually have really strong bones, and you typically many times have very strong legs, because you think about that, somebody who's obese, it's like they're wearing, I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but they are wearing a weighted, say they're 100 pounds overweight. It's like you wearing a 100-pound weighted vest all day long. Like, how much stronger would your muscles be? How much stronger your legs be? It's pretty amazing. That's why that problem it's much less prevalent in the overweight and obese population than it is in typically it's a thinner, more slightly built woman, in their 40s, 50s, 60s, that they really fall prey to that. And it's a really awful disease process. It's a horrible feeling thinking that, gosh, if I fall, I'm going to break something,
Yes. Yeah. No good. All right. Well, cool. Well, that's something we haven't talked about before. I knew you'd come with something good today, Ben. Way to go. Now, you mentioned Whitefish Bay. Tell people who don't know what's going on with Form and Fitness in Whitefish Bay. What do you have going on there?
So we have another personal training studio location. At that location, you can do small group personal training. You can do one-on-one personal training. And then we also have our sister company, Body Renovation Physical Therapy, that has treatment rooms there, so that we have outpatient physical therapy there as well. So kind of our usual mix of services for one of our smaller locations. So if you know anybody who lives in the Bay Area, it's pretty crazy. We've been open 6 weeks. We have 50 personal training clients already.
Right.
I've never seen anything like it. It's just like I've been doing personal training sessions because like the individual that's running the studio, he's like, I can't take all these people, help me. And I'm like, okay, I'll come down. So.
And you're from that area originally, right, Ben?
Yes. Yep.
So it's like coming home for you.
Oh yeah, I just love it. I love being down there. I love that area, and I love the people down there. And it's just a wonderful community down there. So we are so thrilled to be a part of that community, and again to be offering. We always do the tagline "Real strength training, real results," but it's like not that other people are doing fake strength training, but I feel like the strength training that you get at a Form and Fitness studio is so focused on, again, picking the safe, effective exercises that are right for the client, and then really making sure that they're doing the correct form. And, strength training is a very, very powerful modality. It can change the entire shape of your body, but it can also tear things and it can hurt you very badly. So, taking that thought process of maybe doing a little bit of investment in hiring a personal trainer, or a good one, is a very, very wise investment.
Cool. All right, good. And then we got the full gym in Grafton and another studio in Mequon. Mm-hmm. So you got it going on, man.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
That's great. And
it's good work, though.
And at the end of February, you're doing another DECA competition at the Grafton gym.
Yeah, doing it. I'm too scared to do that. It's so hard. Have you done that ever? Did you do this?
I did a practice run, but I can't do the step over. Speaking of watching your joints, so I don't even do it. But Margot did it with a partner last time, and she's going to do it again this time.
Oh, cool! Yeah. That'll be cool. See if she can beat her time. I think DECA is great for the under 40 population that wants to really see if they're like where their level of fitness is at. We're going to eventually develop another thing at the gym. We're actually thinking of doing the first one this summer called the Form and Fitness Games, which is going to be more about measuring your fitness levels in a very kind way where it's not slaughtering you like DECA does. Like DECA's hard. Some people love that, and that's great. But I want to have some type of thing that we can do that's fun, that it allows our entire gym membership. So we have thousands of members of all different ages. I want everyone to be able to participate in it. So it's gonna be the Form and Fitness Games is coming this summer. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Cool. Excellent. You got a lot going on. Way to go, Ben. That almost gives you an excuse for blowing us off for 6 weeks, but that's not quite going to do it. But but it's good to have you back. This segment will run on our show. Our show is now reformulated and running every day from 8 to 8:30 on weekdays. So you'll be slotted in on Monday, the 16th. I believe that's Monday.
Nice.
So
very cool.
Yeah. It's going well, and you're gonna have to come on live sometime and talk to Bulldog.
Yeah, no, I would love to. I'll be a lot more available now that I'm kind of
excellent
out of that what I was doing. So
have a great weekend. Now you skied last weekend. Now there's no snow anymore around here. Everything's melting.
Yeah.
I'm not sad. I know you're a skier, but I'm not sad to see the snow go.
Yeah, we went to Cascade Mountain, which actually is a really good ski mountain. Like I've always thought it was like just a little teeny hill. They had like 40 runs, and some of them were quite long. I was like, wow, this is pretty crazy for Wisconsin.
Is that near Wausau? Is that right? Is that kind of
there's Rib Mountain is near Wausau.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, and that one is it's almost like you're out west, but you're not really. I mean, the Cascade was a close second to that. It's Granite Peak is the one that's out in Wausau.
Okay,
those are the two, in my opinion, the two best ski places in Wisconsin.
Cool. And you got to get fit before you ski. Don't just strap some skis on and go down the hill.
That's another one where, you can get hurt pretty badly if you're.
Yeah.
Yes.
Totally. Are you a Winter Olympics fan?
Yeah. I do enjoy watching some of that. Yep. Some of the certain events I do like.
I was watching today. They had a segment on that Ilya, the American figure skater who's so spectacular, who can do all the things. And they were going over. It was really cool because they had like you would have loved it because they had like a scientific breakdown while he was doing it. They showed it in slow motion how much force he was, the G40 G's, and then they showed one time he was doing a jump just during his routine, and he jumped like sideways, and he said he jumped over nine. It's like jumping over a pool table. What he just did on
Wow.
skates, and it was just incredible to see. It
What
was
is
really
his name? Everyone's been talking about that.
Ilya Melanin or something like that. He sounds Russian, but he's from the U.S. His parents emigrated from Eastern Bloc country a while back, and they were both skaters. So this kid's like
Huh.
21, and
Oh,
he's just phenomenal. So
was he the one where both his parents died in the plane crash?
I don't think so.
There's
No, no,
another
no.
there's another guy like both
Yeah,
his they were a figure skater and then they died and like
yeah,
I thought it was the guy you were talking about because
no.
I've been trying to find and watch the YouTube video of that, but I'm gonna find that tonight. I'm gonna.
Yeah, I think he just skated for the gold this afternoon, our time live this afternoon. I don't know what happened, but so I'm sure they'll be on highlights today. And
Yeah,
then
I'll
there's the
check that
kid
out.
Jordan Poltz or whatever, the speed skater from. He's from Wisconsin. He's got at least one gold, maybe two.
Wow,
So pretty cool,
that's
pretty cool stuff.
yeah, no, it's amazing athletes.
Yes, yes. All right, man. Well, good to see you. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate you having you back, and we'll look get you back on a regular basis.
Awesome, thanks,
All
Jack.
right. Have a great
I'll see you
weekend.
next week. Yep, you too.
Great.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.